because they thought that they could get information from the Russians.
I got to get Ben in. Go ahead, Ben.
Yeah, look, and I want to say this because I think that this is, what Bakari just said there, I think sums up the election a year ago perfectly. There are a lot of people that feel like that there was special treatment that was given to people that worked for Barack Obama on things that they did that they would have been indicted for if they were Republicans. For example, when you clearly have top secret information on a laptop that you have on a server in the basement of your house, and then you send those top secret classified documents to people that aren't even cleared to see them, and then you forward them to your husband, who, by the way, is in jail by the name of Anthony Weiner. If that was a Republican,
what does that have to do with what we're talking about?
They would have been indicted. Let me
Ben,
finish.
what are you talking about? The FBI already investigated that. There have been a million hearings on it. It's water under the bridge. No. We'll be right back.
Hannity, right here on this program, Sean's been warning you for years about the extreme bias in the mainstream media. And according to a brand new study from Pew Research Center, the media's coverage of President Trump's first 60 days in office was historically negative. As you can see, just 5% of the reporting was positive, while a whopping 62% was negative. Compare that to the media's coverage of President Obama's first 60 days in office in 2009, where 42% of the coverage was favorable. Of course, this shouldn't come to a surprise to anyone. Here's just a small sample of the media's coverage of President Trump over the past 12 months.
He's unhinged. It's embarrassing. His speech was without thought. It was without reason. It was devoid of facts. It was devoid of wisdom. There was no gravitas. There was no sanity there.
We have an Archie Bunker-in-chief who is disrespecting American Indians and making classless jokes from the podium.
Is this president trying to impersonate Hugo Chavez, Recep Tayyip Erdogan, Vladimir Putin?
Apparently, the president gets 2 scoops. Everyone else around the table gets 1, and no word if there were sprinkles.
At the dessert course, he gets 2 scoops of vanilla ice cream with his chocolate cream pie instead of the single scoop for everyone else.
He's gained weight, according to these sources. He doesn't trust people around him. He's withdrawing. Not a good picture.
He's a racist. Okay? He came proverbially as close as you could possibly come to shouting in a rally the N-word. That's what he did down there.
Donald Trump, again, being a schmuck. He looked like a thug. He looked like a goon. You look at the handshake. Look at this. Just what a thug. And you have somebody inside the White House that the New York Daily News says is mentally unfit, that people close to him say is mentally unfit, that people close to him during the campaign told me had early stages of dementia.
I asked the simple question, where's the policy disagreement in all these comments from the media? I know they're out there, actually, somewhere. Joining us with Reaction, Fox News contributors Tammy Bruce and Deneen Borelli, as well as Democratic pollster Pat Caddell. Pat, great to see you. It's been a while, Pat, so I'll start with you. You've analyzed media and politics for many years. When you look at this type of coverage and you look at the compendium of this, what do you say to the media? Are they getting the Trump bump for their ratings, and do they need it, or would they survive without it?
Well, I assume they would survive no matter what, but they have clearly been building their ratings on this. But, it just didn't start in the early days of this administration. As Pew says, we've had it for the entire year. We had it to the entire campaign. We have more and more studies that show that the major networks, 90% of the stories that they have been running for the last 9 months or so are negative. We see that from the Media Center reports. We see all of it. And you don't even need the numbers to know. All you have to do is read the New York Times and the Washington Post and some of the other press and watch some of the other cable networks to realize how biased, as Jimmy Carter said, the worst media any president has received. The media is supposed to be in our system adversarial or challenging in the sense of transparency. But this media is much worse. What it is doing is it is running its own narratives. It is not adversarial. It is oppositional. It has decided it is in arm in arm with the opposition of the Democratic Party to this president, and they do it in terms that are so incredible, as you just ran some of them. Thug, racist, whatever you want to call it, demented, all of the things that you hear regularly, the President of the United States being called, which are unprecedented. And then people say he's unprecedented in his hostility, then they have certainly deserved it.
All right, so Tammy, let me go to you on this because, I see this as not good for the country. I see this, regardless of what side you come at this from, when the media does this, they abrogate a key responsibility, like Pat said, to be adversarial, to ask tough questions, but it's not good.
Well, let me suggest that this also is not new. It is just a little bit of a different shade. A different light has been turned on in what the media has been doing for generations. And this is what has been so valuable about Donald Trump. So we saw the positive and the love for Barack Obama. But now what we've seen, of course, normally, and then you heard nothing really about the Republicans. You heard nothing. Part of the problem with the media is what they don't report. And that, you can't prove that. You can't prove a negative, right? But then we see with Donald Trump, of course, the opposite. And this is the perfect juxtaposition now that we needed the coverage of Barack Obama to see, and this extreme difference when it comes to Donald Trump, proving that, in fact, yes, the adversarial position is not new. It's not just for this year. It's been exposed. I would argue that it started with Walter Cronkite and the nature of his coverage of the Vietnam War. And there was no other alternative. Of course, Fox News didn't exist. There was no talk radio. There was none of that to show that. I think this has been the media's nature. I think it has done damage to this country now for several generations. And once again, just like with the stock market, Donald Trump wakes up and has exposed this very important dynamic. And what we now can do, it's proven and shown to the American people, we have a responsibility to look for other sources. We know to trust our instinct more, the value of a variety of opinions, which you now only get on Fox News, and to make sure that this is what continues. And I think that's why it's bad in one way, but the clarity of it, I think, is very good.
All right, Deneen, generationally, we've got a new generation in technology. Twitter, the president uses it. First president to really use it. Obama had an account. Trump uses his account. Some say often times where they wish he'd sleep a little bit more in the early morning. But not only is it a way around the media, but is it helping? Is the media competing with the media they can't control?
When you said the word of the day is control, because the media, the liberal media, is simply unable to control President Trump. So he is able to get around the media because the media, just like you said, will not report on what Americans need to know about. And, what's really unfortunate is that you have so many lies and misinformation that is out there from the media that is not supposed to be biased, but they are. And people are having a tough time just knowing what the actual truth is. We do this for a living. I'm juggling myself what's true and what's not true before going on TV and on radio because I don't want to make a fool of myself. So hardworking Americans, they're raising their families. They want to know what's going on in our country. And sadly, the liberal media really is doing a disservice to Americans.
All right, so Pat, take it all. Go ahead.
I would argue, David, it's even worse and more dangerous. Because it's one thing for the press to say he shouldn't have been elected and you shouldn't be voting for him and he's terrible and get rid of him. That's bad enough. That we have not had. But we also now have this where this thing of where truth is not told. The facts. We have narratives from the liberal media, mainstream media, but we don't have facts. For example, they cover up, and the word is cover up. They purposely have dropped a steel curtain around Washington as it relates to the scandals, whether the scandals in Obama's administration, which they refused to cover, and those that we now see in the FBI, in the stories, whether it's Uranium One, whether it's the dossier. Facts they don't say. Their narratives are, if you raise questions about the Mueller investigation, you're anti-American and you're trying to destroy American institutions. But they will not give the people the facts, where they can then make a judgment.
But, you know, Pat,
on these
and we've
things
got
that
to
are
wrap
going
this
on.
up quickly, so let me ask the ladies this, Pat, because you bring up a very good point, and I want to take you to this, ladies, quickly each. Tammy first. People are sourcing their own facts. They're digging. The new technology, the web, it allows them to do that. Are they doing it enough?
I think they are, and there's, of course, a concern about issues of the sources and all of that. Americans have make good judgment. They know what something's legitimate or not. And, yeah, we're doing a good job, I think.
Is Pat right? Do we need to dig deeper on our own?
We do need to do our own due diligence and not just take the news that's coming out at face value.
All right. Great to see you all. Pat, great to see you.